All right, Shalom Israel. First and foremost, as always, I would like to give all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem, Rachaha, Kadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing His truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. And double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai. And I wanted to do, welcome to another, first off, welcome to another series of GMS on the job, where I'm here at the plantation, busting my ass, blood, sweat, and tears just to make ends meet. But while I am doing the physical work here at Esau's plantation, I am also doing the spiritual work by providing a meal to the hopeful elect in the form of edification, a gourmet meal in the form of edification, that they may be filled. So I wanted to do a response video to the beloved brother Manak Zakba from South Carolina. As you can see right here, his channel is GMS South Carolina 08. Subscribe and be edified. But yeah, man. Another reason why you black women need to shut your fucking mouth, okay? Because once again, you're opening your mouth and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Neither do you understand or affirm as to what you're actually saying. Okay. Okay, now I don't know who's going around teaching that all black people are the chosen, but we here at Great Millstone, we don't push that nonsense, okay? Okay, and just because you have brown skin and woolly hair does not mean you're an Israelite. Because I have news for you. You could be brown skin and have woolly hair, and you could be an Edomite. You can have brown skin and woolly hair, and you could be a Moabite. You can have brown skin and woolly hair, and you could be an Ishmaelite. You could be a Hamite. You could, which would be the Hamites are the Africans, the Ishmaelites are the Arabs. You can have brown skin and have woolly hair, and you could be an East Indian. So anybody teaching that, all black people are the chosen ones, they don't understand what the fuck they're talking about. Okay? They don't understand what the fuck they're talking about. Okay? They're false prophets, and the Lord is not dealing with them. Okay? Because we here at Great Millstone, we always teach that there's going to be Israelites from all around the world that's going to wake up to the truth, and they're going to be delivered. Okay? As a matter of fact, let's just do this. Let's go to the book of Revelation, the 7th chapter, okay? Now, I'm going to just read it, starting at verse 1, okay? So Revelation chapter 7, verse 1. And, excuse me if I pause here and there. I'm currently at my job right now, working. So Revelation chapter 7, verse 1. Okay. It says, after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. Okay. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. Okay. Now, what do you see right here in the subheading? You see 144,000, which are all men. Okay, ain't no women in there. Okay, they're all men. Okay, it says, and I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Okay, 12,000 of each tribe, right? So let's skip down to the point. And after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, okay, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. Okay, so they had palms in their hands. Okay, it says, and cried with a loud voice, salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. Salvation to our God. So these are people right here, right? Israelites who said salvation to our God. Okay. Now, when they said salvation to our God, right? Who do you think they were talking about? Okay, they were talking about the Israelite. They were talking about the Heavenly Father Yahweh and His Son Yahweh. Okay, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay. It says, and cried with a loud voice, saying, salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. And all the angels stood round about the throne, and about the elders, and the four beasts, which fell before the throne on their faces, and worshipped Yahweh, saying, Amen, blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power, it might be unto our God forever and ever. Amen. And one of the elders answered and said, one of the elders answered, saying unto me, what are these which are arrayed in white robes, and whence came they? And I said unto them, Sir, thou knowest. So that one of the elders basically asked John Revelator, like, what are these, right? And there's a reason why the angel asked that, right? Because these people which stood before the throne of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh, praising the Lord, these people who stood before the throne, which are, a part of that great multitude, they did not look like John Shaft. Okay, they did not look like Michael Jordan. Okay. They didn't look like Michael Jordan. They didn't look like Denzel Washington. Okay. So, these are people who were standing before the throne, who basically look like people of the other nations, but they're Israelites, because somewhere down the line, their father's lineage goes back to a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native Indian. Okay, so, and I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said unto me, these are they which came out of great tribulation, right? Because it speaks about Jacob's trouble, right? Which is going to, during Jacob's trouble, we're all going to go through great tribulation, okay? These are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore are they before the throne of Yahweh, and serve him day and night in his temple, and he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. Right now, if we come over here, let's go to the book of James real quick, the first chapter, James, a servant of Yahweh and of the Lord Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, okay, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. Okay. The whole entire nation of Israel is not here in America. Okay. Now you do have Israelites here in America, but you got Israelites living amongst Elam. And a matter of fact, let's get it. Because James said to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. In a matter of fact, before I get that, let's go to the book of Acts, the 2nd chapter. Okay, the book of Acts. Okay, the book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 5. And there were dwelling at now this was 2,000 plus years ago. Okay, and there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews. Now, when it says Jews, this is not talking about one tribe. Okay, because Judah is just one tribe. Predominantly, when you see the word Jew there, Jew, which the proper way of spelling Jew is really J-U, which is short for Judah. Okay. Okay, and the real Jews are so-called Negroes that come out of the tribe of Judah. Okay. The real Jews are really so-called Negroes. And how do we know that? Because the Messiah of the Holy Scriptures, okay, his description as to how he looks in appearance, he's described as looking like a so-called Negro, woolly hair and very, very dark brown skin. Okay, so-called Negroes come out of the tribe of Judah. Okay, and here in Acts, when it says Jews, it's not just talking about one tribe. That word Jew or Jews here is talking about the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Okay, so Acts chapter 2, verse 5. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men, out of every nation under heaven. So these were Israelites of the southern kingdom who were devout men. Now, when it says they were devout, it means that they were devout in worshiping the Lord, okay? Keeping the ceremonies, the customs, the feasts. These were devout men. Out of what? Out of every nation. So these men who were at Jerusalem, okay, these were men who were living amongst Africans. These were men who were living amongst Arabians, which will be the biblical Ishmaelites, Africans, which will be the biblical Hamites. These were men who were living amongst Chinese people, which will be the biblical Moabites. These were men who were living amongst Japanese people, which will be the biblical Ammonites. These were men who were living amongst East Indians, which will be the biblical Elamites. These were men who were living amongst Samoans, Etruscans, okay, so-called Hawaiians, Mauians, however you want to say it. Even though they were not called Hawaiians or Mauians, okay, they were known as Japhetic people. But you had Israelites living amongst them, and so Israel was living amongst all these heathens. So let's read it again. The book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 5. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, Israelite men, devout men out of every nation under heaven. So these were men who were living amongst many different types of nations under heaven. Why? Because when you go back to the curses of Deuteronomy, what did the Lord say? Let's get it. Because the result of the diaspora, which when you go into diaspora, right? Scatter, when you go into that word scatter, I believe it's diaspora, right? When you go into the diaspora, okay, the result of the diaspora is the curses of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, okay? Okay. So let's just type it in. Let's just type in scatter thee. Bam, look at that. Took me right to it. Okay, beautiful. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 64. Okay. And this is a part of the curses which the Lord said he would bring upon our nation. Why? For breaking that first covenant. Okay. Breaking the first covenant and not keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. Okay. Deuteronomy 28 verse 64. It says what? And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people. Now, when the Lord says scatter thee among all people, does that mean that he's going to scatter us? And does that mean that he was going to scatter us into one location among all people? No. When the Lord said that he was going to scatter us among all people, this literally means that we was going to be scattered amongst every nation on the planet. Because at one point, at one time, we were all living in the land of Israel together as a nation of people. But after we've broke that covenant, the first covenant with the Lord not only kicked us out of the land of Israel, but we ended up being scattered amongst every other nation, and as a punishment, we ended up living amongst all of these other nations, which led to us having sex with their women, where our Israelite children came out of those women of these other nations looking like the heathens of those nations. But those children were still Israelites because the father's an Israelite. The man carries the seed. Okay, remember, a child's nationality is based on who the father is, and that's based on the book of Numbers, chapter 1, verse 18. Okay, that's based upon Numbers chapter 1, verse 18. Carol 144. Call Halayim La Alahaya Nawa Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. So okay. It says, the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other. Okay. And what else? And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And amongst the nations shalt thou find no ease. So that's pretty much the point. Okay. The Lord said that as a punishment of breaking his laws, statutes, and commandments, according to Deuteronomy 28, verse 15, right? A part of that curse is that a part of the curse that the Lord put upon our nation was that he was going to scatter us among all nations. Okay. And that happened. Okay. That's why you have Israelites living amongst the Chinese people in today's time. That's why you have Israelites living amongst the Arabians. That's why you have Israelites living amongst the East Indians. That's why you have Israelites living amongst the Japanese people. Hell, you even got Israelites living in the land of Israel that look like small hats. Okay, you got Israelites living amongst the Japhetic people, the Hawaiians, Samoans, Etruscans, Japhetic people. Okay, you got Israelites living amongst the Russians. Why? Because the Lord said that he was going to scatter us among all nations. Okay. And guess what? If an Israelite man have sex with and I'm just giving an example to show you how an Israelite can look like somebody of another nation, but still be an Israelite, because his father's an Israelite, his grandfather's an Israelite, his great-great-grandfather's an Israelite, his great-great-great-great-grandfather's an Israelite, his great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather's an Israelite, and so forth. And this is all on his father's side, because the man carries the seed. Okay, it takes an Israelite man to give birth to an Israelite child, an Israelite boy. So for an example, if an Israelite man have sex with a Chinese woman, that baby is going to come out with lighter skin. He might come out with stringy hair. That baby is still an Israelite. Okay. Okay. He just for an example, he might have named his baby Wu Ping. So guess what? Wu Ping grows up, lighter skin, stringy hair. And guess what? Wu Ping, who is an Israelite, because his father's an Israelite, right? Wu Ping might have sex with a Chinese woman. Okay, and guess what? Wu Ping's child comes out with even lighter skin, more stringy hair. Except this time, his children might come out with slanted eyes. Guess what? His child is still an Israelite, because you know why? Because he's an Israelite and his father's an Israelite. And guess what? He might name his child. He might name his child Liu Kang. Okay, well, we'll just use Liu Kang. He might name his child Liu Kang. Okay, so Liu Kang looks completely like a Chinese man. But guess what? Liu Kang is an Israelite. You know why? Because his father's an Israelite and his grandfather is an Israelite. So guess what? Liu Kang, who is an Israelite because of his father and because of his grandfather, right? Liu Kang grows up and he has sex with a Chinese woman. Guess what? Liu Kang's son is going to come out. Liu Kang, the son of Wu Ping, right? Liu Kang, who has sex with a Chinese woman. His baby is going to come out looking completely like a full-blown Chinese person. His baby is going to come out looking completely Chinese. But guess what? His baby is still an Israelite. You know why? Because Liu Kang is an Israelite. Okay, and guess what? Wu Ping is an Israelite. And guess what? Wu Ping's father, who is a so-called Negro, is an Israelite. So you see, imagine going through a whole entire generation of Israelite men who have been scattered amongst all of these other nations. And their great children of these Israelite men look like the people of the other nations. What do you think is going to happen? People is going to confuse them for being Arabian when they're really an Israelite. Now, don't get me wrong, because the Arabians are heathens. They're heathens. A heathen by nature is anybody who is not born an Israelite. So we know that the Arabians, anybody who is not an Israelite is a heathen. Okay, so guess what? Arabians are heathens. East Indians are heathens. Africans are heathens. Chinese people are heathens. Okay, Japanese people are heathens. The North and South Korean people and the Taiwanese people, which are all Moabites, they're all heathens. Okay. Okay, the so-called white man, he's a heathen. Okay, the Hawaiians, Samoans, the Etruscans, they're all heathens. Okay, the Israelites, according to the Holy Scriptures, are the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native Indians. So if your father's lineage on your father's side go back to a so-called Negro, Latino, or a Native Indian, you are an Israelite regardless of what you look like. So guess what? You got Israelites that look like the people of these other nations, that are scattered amongst the people of these other nations. But they're still Israelites because their father's lineage on their father's side, somewhere down the line, goes back to a so-called Negro, Latino, or a Native Indian. This shirt has no price tag. I'm gonna have to put this away. I'll just put it here for now. Okay, so when you read Deuteronomy 28 verse 64, you understand that us being scattered among every nation under the sun means that It basically means that as a punishment of our nation, not every Israelite is going to look like John Shaft. Not every Israelite is going to look like Denzel Washington. Okay, there's going to be Israelites that look like so-called white people. Okay, case in point, Eminem, he's an Israelite. Okay, Eminem is an Israelite. Okay, ain't nobody going to give rap God to some damn Edomite, which is a so-called white person, because so-called white people, their father's line goes back to Esau in the Holy Scriptures. Okay. Okay. Eminem is no Edomite. Okay. That dude is a straight up Israelite. Okay. Somewhere down the line, his father's line on his father's side goes back to a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native Indian. Okay. You know, Bruce Lee was an Israelite. Okay. Okay, that dude put his heart and soul into Kung Fu. That dude was a straight up Israelite. Machine Gun Kelly is a straight up Israelite. Okay, you know, 6ix9ine, that wicked ass individual. Mr. Loudmouth want to be rowdy. Now he's somebody bitch in jail. He's a Jake. Okay. So you know, you're gonna have Israelites that look like people of the other nation, and we go into this all the fucking time, man. We go into this all the time. Not every black person is an Israelite, you know, because you cannot forget about the parable of the wheat and the tares, because during slavery, the so-called white man was raping the snot out of you black bald-headed bitches, and guess what was coming out of y'all? Tares, because the baby of your slave master, you know, might have came out with darker skin and woolly hair, but that baby was not an Israelite. That baby is an Edomite. You know why? Because the father of that baby, which was a slave master, the father of that baby was an Edomite. So there were a lot of Edomites coming out of you black women during slavery, because y'all was getting raped against y'all will. Remember that shit, huh? You want to always open your fucking mouth about the Bible, but you don't know shit about the Bible. That's why you need to just shut the fuck up, man. And the time is coming when the Heavenly Father is going to shut the mouths of you black bitches up permanently. Okay? You know, you need to go have a seat somewhere, because y'all motherfuckers don't know shit. You know, you're just babbling off at your mouth and shit. Okay, you know, but again, let's go back to Acts. Okay, so you see, when you go to this was 2,000 plus years ago. How much more now in today's time? You know, our people are so damn carnal. Okay, they don't seem to understand that there's going to be Israelites that's going to look like people of the other nation. Okay. Acts 2 verse 5, and there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. Out of every nation. Why? Because they were scattered amongst those nations, which is a part of the curses of Deuteronomy 28 verse 64, as I read earlier. They were scattered. You see? So what are you talking about? All black people can be saved. Not every person that has brown skin and woolly hair is an Israelite. Okay? But that's pretty much the point. With that, I'm going to say shalom. Is on to the next one.